Stuart is giving you the thumbs up.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Communities Committee. And I think we've gone live, so we can start the meeting. Thank you. So first item on the agenda is the minutes of the last meeting held on the 10th of June. Are members happy to agree those minutes? Just a nod of the head would be fine. Thank you. Thanks very much. Item 2 is apologies for absence. Noel?
Yes, Chair, we've got apologies from Councillor Elizabeth Williamson on medical grounds. No other apologies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 3, declarations of interest by members and officers. 3A is disclosable pecuniary interests and B, private interests. Are there any declarations of interest?
Just the normal one, re-inspire, Chairman.
And I suppose I'd better do the same then, Glyn. Thank you. And declare the same interests. Thank you. Item 4, cultural service strategy refresh. Mick Allen. Thank you, Mick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's nice to see everybody in person as well for the first time in a long time. A nice, easy, quick, brief report to start things off today. The Kenner Council has got a cultural service strategy that was dated back in 2011, expires in 2021. This report is to note the plans to refresh that strategy, as you can tell, relatively overdue, and also to seek views from members around the contents of that strategy going forward. Since 2011, things have changed a lot. As you know, Inspire has been born, and we'll talk a bit more about Inspire later. And all our country parks are now operated by third-party providers, or public sector partners as well. So it's time to refresh the strategy, and hopefully we can have a useful discussion today, and members can feed into that process. We will come back with a report in due course as that progresses as well.
Thank you very much, Mick. The recommendations are on page 8. That the committee notes the plans to refresh the council's cultural services strategy and identifies any key issues they'd want to be addressed in the new strategy. And 2, agree a further report of the refresh strategy being presented to the committee in due course. So I'll propose that recommendation. I have a seconder. Thank you.
Happy to second that, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Councillor Williamson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I want to welcome this strategy refresh. As has been mentioned, I think it's quite long overdue. In my last meeting, my colleague Councillor Elizabeth Williamson raised the issue of our library buildings and making better use of them within our communities. As part of this refresh, can I seek an assurance that any strategy review will include a review of the usage of our library buildings, and that Inspire will proactively contact Nottinghamshire Police along with other groups to offer the use of our library buildings. In particular, for the police, this could be with drop-in sessions. I know the new Police and Crime Commissioner has indicated a willingness to discuss this option, and that we look at the libraries in whichever way we can to try and increase their cultural output. In addition to these, as we move out of this pandemic, I think it's important to know one of the fabulous work that Inspire did in creating a lot of virtual learning throughout the pandemic. But obviously, as we come back to face-to-face meetings and people are getting out and about more, they want to get out of their home. They don't necessarily want to go and sit in a library or another hall to try and take on a bit of cultural learning. So could I ask that we do a review and see what we can do about outdoor cultural offerings? Nottinghamshire has a lot of cultural historical figures of which we should be very proud. D.H. Lawrence, Lord Byron, just to name a couple. And I really feel like some form of action regarding putting events on in parks which combine Nottinghamshire's cultural history, our beautiful outdoor parks, and the provisions of this council can only make Nottinghamshire residents healthier and happier, and by providing something in those outdoor spaces, they get to see what we are offering, and we also get a chance to show them many other programmes that this council wants to carry forward. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of what you've just said we already do, and we constantly review all the libraries all of the time. We rotate it round and continue to do it all the way through the way we've been running it since about 2008. So The points you make will be part of that review. So I don't see there's any problem with that. Do you want to come back on that, Mick, at all?
I don't think there's a lot I can offer really over and above what John's already said. Obviously, we Inspire work through their own business plans to look at the use of their buildings to make sure they're used effectively and for the best use of the communities where they can as well. And that will always happen and will continue to happen. And obviously, in terms of cultural events, we concentrate around the sites that we operate or we contract out, but certainly in terms of the wider cultural offer for the county, we're happy to contribute to that and to support any of those events in order to try and encourage visitor economy and people into the county and staying visitors into the county. And that's one of the key things that we'll be trying to capture through this new strategy, is to link into some of those already approved plans to try and improve the tourism offer in the county.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Guildford.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I think one of the issues for me is probably, along with other issues around economic development, is in reality we probably need a state of the county report, because there will be businesses that we worked with previously that have gone by the wayside, and there will be new businesses that have been dormant that opened up, and that may be businesses such as some of the lodges that were opened or were starting to make the accommodation lodges that were in and around where they got planning permission, and for whatever reason either they opened and then didn't have any business or whatever, or they've had to put things on the back burner, so to speak. So I would like also in relation to other cultural areas such as our theatres, etc., that have been closed and have suffered greatly due to that. There's no saying whether they may be able to make their way through without at least government assistance for some time, because you know the impact that it's had. So I just wondered whether within that, before we sort of get to a point of forming a strategy, so to speak, that we actually know what the current status quo is with a lot of what's going out there, because that, clearly you can have a strategy, but there may be partners that we've worked with that may not be there to deliver on that strategy. I think the other thing is one of the big things that we do usually quite well in Nottingham is you work with other partners about events, and clearly events that used to take place over the years, whether it be events just across the road by the river, Sherwood Forest Visitor Centre, the events there. A lot of these have gone by the wayside, and clearly when you've got businesses that are trying to still make their way through, they cannot probably afford to take that risk on putting events on. So again, a bit about what we're going to do about events, and what I would hope that we could do is take this next few months to look at next year's strategy in relation to events on what we could put out there. I know we don't know what's going to happen in the next few months. We don't know whether it's going to be, Freedom Days freed us all, or whether we're all going to be incarcerated within the next month or so, again, because of what's gone on. I'm hoping it's the former, like everybody is, but I'm still a bit worried. But I think what we've got to do is prepare, and I would hope that what we can do is prepare for next year and the next 4 years with this strategy on inviting people back into Nottinghamshire and getting that much, sometimes not used a lot, but sometimes and unsung on occasions, visitor attractions that we've got here, which pay such a big keeping the economy thriving. There's also the number of local pubs and places that have closed as well. So in some places where they've closed, some of the places might not be as inviting as they used to be for people to come and visit. So I think, as I say, that state of the what that is, and then work from that with doing the strategy. because I think we could sit down and write a strategy, and we could probably dust the old one off and update it. But in reality, I don't know what's still out there. So perhaps we ought to take a bit of time doing that and then work with the strategy. I'd also like to see whether we could have a bit more involvement of members in it, because we'll sort of get officers to go off and they'll come back with a report, and we'll might have 10 or 15, 20 minutes in here talking, or we'll end up having a good debate and then some of the other stuff that's on the agenda get knocked off. So I would like us to do some real justice to it and actually ask whether we could dedicate a particular meeting to the strategy that comes forward. So prior to it being sort of setting tablets of stone and being a fait accompli for perhaps sales on this side as opposed to yourself, John, so that we could work on it, in case we have, like we do on occasion, we have some good ideas that can be put into the melting pot. So I would hope that we could at some point say, right, we'll bring it to a committee before it goes into policy or whatever else. So we have that chance to have an input. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Glyn. Do you want to come back on that, any of that, Mike?
I guess, yes, I think it's what we'd say, certainly around the sort of understanding what's there and what the offer is, because I think that's the real key thing. You're absolutely right. We don't quite know what's survived the last 18 months and whether new businesses have reappeared in a different form. We obviously want to work with a range of partners across that to make sure that what we're offering is a complementary offer, because we want to work at a county level to ensure that we support what may be happening in Ashfield or maybe happening in other places, and with those individual businesses, because it's clearly valid that we do that. There's a lot of work happening around that already on the economic development side, I think, in terms of the COVID recovery planning work that's been done to try and understand what the impacts have been. And that's across all sectors, not just leisure and culture, etc. But you're absolutely right. There are opportunities for us to work wider, and we're happy to do that. I think the debate about how involved members are in that is one for John to consider, really, rather than me as a mere officer. But certainly in terms of working with people, we want to do that. It's not about just what the county council's trying to do. It's about trying to make that holistically beneficial for the whole of Nottinghamshire and the people that live and work here.
I'm happy to bring a draft paper back, and then we can discuss it in committee and we can give it the time. So I'm quite relaxed about that. So I'll always try and pinch somebody else's good ideas. So so yeah, no. Thanks, Glyn. But yeah, Derek, did you want to come back?
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say, Councillor Guildford, that the links that you identify between what we do in terms of cultural provision and our visitor economy, the tourism economy, is absolutely central to what we'll end up developing through the cultural strategy. We know from both the current visitor economy strategy and our cultural services work that some of our significant visitor attractions absolutely drive the visitor economy. And so ensuring that those two things knit together effectively, and that when people want to come to the county to take part in a cultural experience or activity, they've got somewhere to stay and somewhere to go, as well as the actual taking part in the activity itself is absolutely critical to our kind of long-term recovery from COVID. So I think it's a really good point to make about kind of knitting those two things together.
Thanks, Derek. Okay, anybody else wish to say anything? Okay, we'll move to the vote then, please. Those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you, Mick. Item 5, Local Government Association peer review of the library service, which I believe we've got Kirsty on Teams. So would you like to go ahead, Kirsty? Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for accommodating me virtually from my self-isolation. So this report is to update you on the peer review that took place in February by the Local Government Association and funded by Arts Council England. And this was a review of the public library service, looking at a number of areas, and particularly in the context of COVID, and also the operating model whereby Inspire is commissioned to provide services on behalf of the County Council. So there are a number of key findings from the report, which should reassure members of the high quality library service and also the strong and collaborative relationship that was noted between Inspire and Nottinghamshire County Council. It also focuses on the customer and community how we served the customers and community throughout the pandemic. And praises us as well for cross-party political support from the council. So it makes 7 key recommendations, which have been then used to develop an action plan. And these include how we can, as Inspire, contribute to cross-cutting agendas of the council, how the council and Inspire should work together to co-design the new vision and strategy for Inspire to enable the kind of golden thread of council priorities to run through our plans. And then further actions around making sure that Inspire makes best use of board members, looks at best practice elsewhere in the country, and carries on considering the opportunities for co-location of services and also the harnessing of volunteers and their contribution to our services as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kirsty. I would like to propose the recommendation on page 15. Be informed of the outcomes of the LGA peer review of the library service, and secondly, to agree the action plan at Appendix 1 to the report. I'll propose that recommendation. Have a seconder, please.
Happy to second that, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any questions or comments from anyone? Well, Kirsty, they don't want to ask you any questions. It's obviously the sympathy for you being isolated, I think.
Absolutely.
So I'll say thank you to Inspire and the team for all they've achieved, and that we came out with a cracking peer review, as in my view. So thank you very much indeed. If you pass that on. Okay. We'll go to the vote then. Those in favour of the recommendations, please show. Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you. It's Noel's fault for changing it so I do it properly, and I'm not. Item 6, Inspire Annual Learning Plan and Fees for 2021-2022. Ian Bond is going to present that, and I'll do the recommendations beforehand as I'm instructed. So I'm not going to read all of those out. It's page 20 of the agenda pack, and there are 5 recommendations, all of which I hope you will consider, but I will propose. Thank you. A seconder, please.
Chairman, happy to second that.
Thank you, Tom. Over to you, Ian. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Morning, everybody. I thought that rather than just go through the paper, this would be an opportunity to actually do a brief presentation on Inspire Learning Service. So with your indulgence, I will now hopefully make the technology work and try and do that for you. No pressure at all. Here we go. I hope that's coming through. No, it's not. Okay. Bear with me a second. Thank you. Here we go. I think it should, if I go for this one.
Yeah.
Is that working okay?
Yes.
That's excellent.
Good.
That's brilliant. So I shall progress. Thank you. That was magic. Well done, Noel. Thank you. Apologies, colleagues. So yeah, sorry. Just to introduce myself then, I am, sorry, that's not the correct one, is it? I don't think. No, I apologise, yes. No, I know it's been a bad idea. Here we go. I was doing quite well. That's yeah. I could do with it now. I'm fine. Actually, I hope now I should be okay. Just bear with me a second. Yeah. Okay. I don't know why I can't see that. I'm not seeing that one. Was that? That's
No,
still the other one, isn't it?
You need to stop presenting the other one.
Okay.
Stop presenting.
Okay.
Yeah. And then share screen.
I need to do the audio,
Yeah.
and it should be.
Find the one that you want to
It's
share.
this. It's this one, which. So it's on the toolbar, and then if it should be there, shouldn't it? If I kind of go Windows, would it be? Is it that one there, maybe?
Yeah, well, you're up on screen, so if you click on open.
Is that? That's strange. It worked fine. I
know.
In the prior.
Share content.
Here we go.
Live.
It's this one here. Okay, what I suggest is, given that I'm failing to be able to access the thing, perhaps I admit defeat because I'm conscious of time. So,
shall I move on, Ian, and then you carry on looking? Because
okay.
Need to do the next paper.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
You've got it back up, then we'll go into it. And
Thank.
if not, we'll move on to the other items.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you.
And I should have had my microphone on. So over to you, Rob.
Thank you, Chairman. And if I may, I'll just highlight a couple of key points from the report and give you a couple of updates on items that have changed since the report was finalised. The purpose of the report is to advise the committee of key matters arising from the work of the County Council's registration service for births, deaths and marriages. I started the report with some information about the continuity of registration services throughout the pandemic. I will just highlight that point because to a greater or lesser extent throughout the pandemic, registration services have continued. At times, some have been suspended. Death registrations have continued throughout using easements provided by the government to enable those otherwise face-to-face appointments to be done over the telephone. There is an update for paragraph 4. The office at East Retford had been closed for a while, but it is now open, leaving just Beeston and Hucknall are the offices that have been closed and remain closed. I can also give you an update on the statistics for the registrations of deaths at paragraph 6. The report includes the statistics from the 24th of March last year through to 2nd of July. I can update that as of last Friday, including the 16th of July, those numbers quoted have gone up by just 4 further death registrations. So the total for Nottinghamshire registrars is now 1,574. Further in the report, I will just highlight that civil marriages, of course, for a long time, very few couples were getting married. And so there is a large backlog of couples who want to bring forward the wedding that they had dreamed of as soon as possible. So we have got a very busy summer this year, and we anticipate it will be a busy summer again next year. I've highlighted in the report there have been financial consequences for the registration service because of not being able to conduct those enhanced ceremonies that otherwise would have provided income to the service. And finally, if I may, I just highlight at the very end of the report, the National Registrars' Day took place on the 1st of July, and that offered the opportunity to mark the achievements of the registration service and to thank staff for their work during the pandemic. Councillor Cotty kindly sent an email to all staff, and Councillor Smith joined me in visits to the registration offices in Mansfield and Newark, where he was able to pass on his appreciation in person. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Rob. Recommendation on page 30 notes the update of the key registration service matters and considers if further reports are required on the topics listed. I'll propose that recommendation. Do I have a seconder, please?
Chairman, happy to second that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Adams, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just a couple of small questions, actually. I wondered if on the deaths data, if we could have a comparison between pre-COVID year deaths against obviously what we've got a total including COVID as we stand today, but also the births too, what the actual numbers of births are. It'd be interesting just to see in comparison in terms of where we are as far as population growth also. And there was something else. No, that was it. Thank you very much. And thank you for the report. Cheers.
Shall I roll through them or do you want to come back to them?
It'd be very quick to come back to that.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely, I can provide those statistics. I will just give a sort of a bit of a cautionary note. Of course, these do fluctuate, of course, and when we have particularly severe winters, the deaths, or indeed heat wave as we're having now, the deaths will change. But I'll try and produce something meaningful by way of a comparison with the average sort of year we'd expect, so you can see a difference.
Thanks, Rob. Councillor Saddington.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a while since I've been on this committee, but I do remember the registration services coming before us on a previous occasion. Can I just check, Rob, two things? When I've seen it previously, we've had a list at the back of the agenda item of all the places where you can get married, and I don't see that this time. So my question follows because of that. Have all these venues been checked since we've come out of COVID? Because I can think of one very large venue near Newark, which has closed, and people are now trying to find a place to have their wedding. And at that wedding, they could have 1,000. I'm sure you know where I'm talking about. And I just wonder if you've done any surveys of places that are still continuing, because many of these places have struggled during COVID. Thank you.
Okay, Rob.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Saddington, for the question. I annually take a report to what was Planning and Licensing Committee about the number of venues we have. So I have a report in preparation for Planning and Rights of Way Committee. In this report, I'd included that number, 69, or the number of approved premises across the county. It was 70 when I first drafted the report. I am aware of the venue that you're referring to. it is a very difficult situation when that happens, and certainly our registrars are receiving calls from and trying to help those couples who had planned for that venue, really quite elaborate, large-scale marriages. And it is particularly tragic that it's that business has not been able to survive through the pandemic. Our registrars, our managers, in continual contact with those approved premises, and we've been able to talk to them about the outdoor marriages that are being permitted now. So there is a good deal of dialogue going on. And I hope and believe that the services the County Council provides to them in facilitating, helping them with their weddings business will be very helpful to them to survive the impact of the pandemic. But there is a report coming, and it will be the Planning and Rights of Way Committee that will be at.
Thank you, Rob. Councillor Guilfoyle.
Yes, Rob, just looking at bullet point 3, where it shows you the registration officers. Clearly, it's not showing that Worksop is open, and in bullet point 4, it's not saying it's closed. So I just wondered whether you've demolished it.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Guilfoyle. I don't know why that is missing. It is an error, and the Worksop office during the pandemic returned to the library building in Worksop. It had previously been relocated to the turbine because of the flooding that happened. It has returned, and Councillor Smith visited it on the 1st of July. It's an oversight. Apologies. Worksop is there and open.
I know that. It's just that I couldn't believe that it wasn't mentioned, being it's the centre of the universe, but never mind.
We just tried to see if you'd spot it. That's what it was, Glenn.
Well, I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
I did point it out to somebody earlier.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank all the members, the staff of the Registrar Service, because I can't even begin to imagine how difficult it has been dealing particularly with death certification throughout the pandemic. So I just want on record my thanks to all of you. I've got a specific question regarding the notices of marriage. It's in regards to a case that was brought up by a councillor in Sutton to me when they saw that this was on the agenda. We had a couple in Sutton and Ashfield. At the height of the pandemic, they applied for a wedding notice and were charged accordingly. And obviously, due to various pandemic-related reasons, the wedding has been cancelled 3 times. As we're coming back out, they've recently reapplied for the wedding notice, but they've been charged again. Now, I know it's only a small amount of money, but the couple are obviously quite rightly aggrieved that having had to pay twice for the notice through no fault of their own. I appreciate the notices of marriage are a statutory requirement and it's governed by statutory fee, but are we aware of any councils in this country waiving the fee for a wedding notice if it's already been paid on compassionate grounds where people haven't been able to get married? And would there be any plan for us to potentially do the same thing here? Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Williamson. And I will pass on your kind remarks to the registration service. Yes. Well, first of all, we have had a number of couples who've come to us with that point, and we've made inquiries, and we've talked to colleagues in other councils, and particularly through the National Panel for Registration. And you're quite right to point out that point that this is a statutory fee, and that when it's a notice that lasts for 12 months, and that's a legislative position. And when it expires, a fresh notice is required, and the fee covers the work that is done to take the notice a second time. It's a topic that has been discussed in Parliament, and there's a parliamentary written question and answer that we've referred to when we've answered the questions from couples. We've taken our lead from the National Panel for Registration, whose position was, and I think it was observed nationally by the majority of councils, that the criteria we have for waiving the fee are compassionate grounds, particularly if it's been a bereavement, or financial grounds, if there's dire financial needs. We are aware there are some councils who have taken the decision that the compassionate grounds do give them cause to be able to waive them. Obviously, it's a small amount of money, as you rightly say. It can mount up if with the thousands of weddings we are talking about if the pandemic goes on. So for those reasons, most registration services we're aware of, most councils we're aware of, have continued to apply those criteria the way they are or were originally intended, that compassionate grounds meant something really serious like a bereavement.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rob. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to the vote then. Those in favour of the recommendation, please show. Thank you. That's unanimous. Are we okay, Ian? Are we all firing on cylinders now that we've got?
I think so, Chair. I'll just give it a try. Thank you.
So it's item 6, Inspire Annual Learning Plan and Fees 2021 to 2022, which has been proposed and seconded. Thank you, Ian. Over to you.
Thank you. So, yeah, sorry about that earlier. Difficulties, probably need to go on a course. So, yes, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Ian Bond. I'm the Learning Director for Inspire Learning. And I just thought in accompanying the report that I'd also take the opportunity to do a brief presentation to colleagues just to kind of update on Inspire Learning. So I'll be covering these items during the course of the presentation. So the first thing is around our formation and the move to do direct delivery for our adult and community 19+ provision. So we founded Inspire Learning in April 2016 as part of Inspire, as we went sort of arm's length from Nottinghamshire County Council. And at that point, the service for adults was 100% subcontracted delivery. So we had our funding that comes from the Education Skills Funding Agency that comes to Nottinghamshire County Council, and then we shared that with a number of partners across the county. And during the course of the next few academic years, starting in the 2016-17 academic year, we've moved to having more adult direct delivery, where the actual delivery for those adult provision is done by Inspire itself. But we do still retain about 20% of our provision is delivered through our subcontracting partners as well, because that we think gives a good balance. In terms of study programmes, these are the programmes for our 16 to 18-year-olds, and this provision used to be part of the youth service. It's now part of Inspire Learning within Inspire, and it was devised really to provide support for young people who would otherwise be at risk of that acronym NEET, which is not in education, employment and training. And we have about 300 learners every year. Our achievement rates are above the national benchmark at around 80%. That means that when they finish with us, these young people progress into employment or training or apprenticeships or traineeships. And our achievement rates for the last year, which was 2018-19, when they actually published the achievement rates, we were above the national benchmark for that provision. And then for our adult and community learning, and family learning, as I say, we deliver from a number of venues, predominantly through the libraries, and there are 60 venues across the county, as we know, but also other community venues and schools, and we deliver a range of services. We've increased the offer that we're able to give to adults in terms of adult community and family learning over the years since 2016, and we organise this provision under 4 themes. So we have employability, we have well-being, and we have family learning, and we have learning for learners with lifelong learning and disabilities and difficulties. So they're the 4 subheadings that we organise the adult and community learning and family learning under. We also have introduced, since the 2017-18 academic year, accredited provision for adults, because we didn't used to do that. So this is actually allowing adults to gain a certificate in their course. And last academic year, that provision was worth about 500,000, and we're talking just under 1,000 learners a year who are able to start on a non-accredited community or family learning course, who now, when they want to, can progress to an accredited certificate, and that will help them in terms of employability and moving on. And again, that provision in 2018-19, which was the last year when there were published national achievement rates, we were above the national benchmark for that, which is also positive. So in terms of highlights, we've had Ofsted in 2015 and 2017, where our service was judged to be good. We have recently, like that, literally last week, had an Ofsted visit for our apprenticeship provision, which is under a separate contract, which the judgment hasn't been published, but we will bring a report on that to the committee in due course. Our national achievement rates, as I've mentioned, are above benchmark. We were successful in winning the TES Further Education Award for the best adult community learning service in the country for 2020, which was great. We've got other accreditations like our Matrix Award and our Customer Service Excellence Awards, and we've managed to be quite successful in a number of external funding project bids as well, which help to develop the service. We, during COVID, have maintained 100% of our learning. A lot of that has been remote learning throughout 2020. We then have gone to more face-to-face delivery since lockdowns have eased, but then obviously we've had to go back into doing more remote delivery again when, after Christmas, the third lockdown came in. We've maintained a full service throughout that period, and we've been successful in getting external funding to help get laptops and connectivity devices, so that where young people and adults needed help with getting access to laptops and dongles, we've been able to provide those so that they can access their learning remotely. In terms of the annual report, the key areas are around the fact that we're trying to ensure that we continue to support Nottinghamshire residents to respond well to the challenges of post-COVID-19. We're going to continue to deliver a universal community learning and skills offer. We're going to deliver via face-to-face and using remote e-learning where appropriate. And we're going to also, in terms of the fees, maintain that at £4.50 an hour, which was the rate that we had before we went into the COVID, because we think that that's going to be the right fee to enable us to widen participation. I've then got a short film on the service, which I hope will tell a little bit more about the story.
People in Nottinghamshire to grow and achieve. We're an approved quality training provider rated good by Ofsted. Our courses are delivered by experienced and friendly tutors in small informal groups in local libraries across Nottinghamshire. We can even help access funding and loans for your studies and advise you on the next steps into employment or further study. Our community and family learning courses are a great way to get out of the house, meet new people and learn a new craft, or improve your skills. We offer a range of programmes for young people aged from 16 to 18 from specialist centres across Nottinghamshire. They're designed to help you develop your skills whilst getting real work experience. If you're looking for a career change or you want to expand your skills and knowledge to boost your job prospects, take a look at our further and higher education courses. Earn while you learn through an apprenticeship. You can even become an apprentice in your current role using government funding. Through the Building Better Opportunities Towards Work programme, we offer tailored support to the long-term unemployed to access training and become economically active again. We also offer specialist support to those with a disability or who have a health difficulty. We're proud of the learning experiences we're able to offer to students with learning and physical disabilities who might otherwise not be able to access learning. Whatever your situation, you can rely on Inspire Learning. Be inspired to learn with Inspire Learning.
And then finally for me, there's just a couple of dates for your diaries. There's going to be the Inspire Awards night on Thursday, the 30th of September, and that's going to be held at Mansfield Central Library. And that's a celebration of all of the great work that Inspire does across all of the services that we offer. And it's a great evening. I know some colleagues will have attended. And the last one is the Christmas concert is planned for Monday, the 6th of December, and that's at the Royal Concert Hall in Nottingham. And again, that's an evening concert where representatives from schools, because of our peripatetic music teaching programme and the work that we do through the outreach and music schemes, come and do a fantastic Christmas concert. So that's some dates for the diary. Thank you everyone for your attention. Thank you. Sorry about the earlier
That's
technical
okay.
glitches.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for your presentation. Okay, any questions or comments from any members of the committee? There you go.
Oh,
Councillor Williams.
I'm afraid not quite got off that.
Nearly got away with it.
It's just two questions. Right? The first one is obviously, I think we've talked about providing learner programs for several hundred young people now, which I think is absolutely fabulous. So well done on that. Do we have some sort of breakdown by district or borough as to where these courses have been taken up? I'm just wondering if we have any, if we have that sort of information available, so an uptake rate in Ashfield versus an uptake rate in Rushcliffe, for instance, just to see if there's any discrepancies in it. And the second question is probably just a matter of semantics, but I just wanted to check for my own well-being. Where we're talking about this talks about the fee remissions and discretionary remissions. Well, obviously, we have the fee waivers, we're not charging them. And my understanding of the remission is always it's refunded. So where we're doing the fee remissions, are we charging them first and then giving them the money back? Or is it just a matter of wording and they're not being charged? That's both of them. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Williamson. I'll take the last one first, if I may, just because I think it's a really straightforward one. The fee remission is actually where we remit the fee for those learners who have, through their status, they have exemption from paying the fees. So they don't pay and then we give it back. We don't take the fee from them at source if they meet the eligibility criteria. And then in terms of providing the statistics in terms of take up of the study programme 16 to 18 by district, we have those statistics. We know in terms of where the number of the volume of young people broken down by district, so I can provide that information for you. That should be no. I haven't got it to hand, I'm afraid, but I can certainly provide that.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Any other questions? No? We'll go to the vote then, please. Those in favour of the 5 recommendations, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, Ian. We got there in the end, didn't we? Thank you. So we're on to item 8, which is an update on the key trading standards and community matters, which I think we're on to Teams again, Mark. Thank you very much.
Yep, good morning all. So yes, thank you, Chair. There's a comprehensive report for you today. Hopefully it will help newer members to understand the breadth of the work, the service and the important matters the committee needs to be aware of. Don't intend to go through it in detail, but there are 4 areas I'd just like to talk to you today about. The first one, if I may, at paragraph 3, talk about fraud against the vulnerable. The service puts significant efforts into protecting the most vulnerable from scams, frauds and other deceptive practices that are targeted at them. Much work is about prevention, so trying to stop it happening in the first place. And there are 2 examples of prevention work in the report. There's the training discussed in paragraph 3, designed to build informed support around potential targets. There's also the leaflet drops in paragraph 5 into hotspot areas, and again that's aimed to sort of try and target hardened potential victims. The service also intervenes where there has been a crime committed, not only to try and apprehend offenders but to break that cycle of re-victimisation. At paragraph 6, the data there shows that work done with doorstep crime victims in a 3-month period shows that 84% of those reported that the information provided by training standards officers was instrumental in giving them confidence to protect themselves. And further, I don't think this is in the report, but 2 residents stated that they have received further knocks at the doors since the original knock at the door, but now have the knowledge and confidence to turn the doorstep caller away. If I may just take you to paragraph 7 and talk about food safety. The service is the food law enforcement body for the county. It's a statutory duty of this council and obviously something covered by this committee. What it means is the council is responsible for the official controls on food standards across the county and responsible to the Food Standards Agency, the government agency that covers all food work. Food standards work focuses on composition and labelling of food, as opposed to food hygiene matters, which environmental health colleagues at district councils, primarily look after. But members will be aware from the media of the issue of allergens in foods, and it is the highest priority area of food standards work for the service due to the ongoing fatalities that undeclared allergens have had. The service recently received a complaint about an allergic reaction to a chocolate bar that was being produced in Nottinghamshire. Formal samples were taken by trading standards officers to submit for testing to the public analyst, and substantial quantities of milk were found. Officers then worked with the Food Standards Agency to assess the potential risk to consumers and agree the follow-up actions. In this instance, a product recall was implemented, and that puts a duty on the producer to do as much as they can to ensure that the product supplied to other businesses or consumers is destroyed or returned to the manufacturer. That also includes notifying the businesses that they have supplied, telling them what the issue is with the product and the potential risk, and that requirement then goes down the supply chain. The FSA also publishes a list of recall products on websites so that consumers and businesses can check if any products supplied have been subject to recall. And if the business can't get in contact with the end consumer, then there's a duty put on them to use public notices at the point of sale or on business websites, etc., to get that information out there. So at the moment, we're currently in Nottinghamshire monitoring the recall process, working with the business to support make sure this doesn't happen again, and also we'll be looking at in the longer term what sort of action might come about by virtue of the fact this product was on the market, and of course, as ever, we will bring a report back to committee on that. If I can now move you on to paragraph 31 regarding the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act. The Act is designed to regulate the use of certain intrusive investigatory powers. These powers allow the authority to impede certain human rights of some individuals regarding a right to a private and family life. The powers can only be used in exceptional circumstances and if certain conditions and appropriate authorities have been given. But the techniques are important tools to gather evidence needed to put some of the cases before court that are taken. It is important this committee oversees the use of these techniques, hence the reason this update is in there today. The two types of techniques used by trading standards are directed covert surveillance operations, and secondly, the acquisition of communications data. There is a third allowed regarding the use of covert human intelligence sources, a CHIS, as you might have heard on telly, but we're not in a position really in the council to be able to safely manage a covert human intelligence source, so we're very, very, very unlikely to use that. Since January this year, we've completed 2 directed covert surveillance operations that provided evidence to support larger investigations into certain criminal activities involving illegal tobacco products. Both of these applications went through the appropriate authorisation process, which means that officers have to fill out there's a long form, let's put it that way, and they have to consider the necessity of using surveillance, the proportionality of it, and also they have to think about managing any collateral intrusion. So if the surveillance would pick up private information on anybody else. Then it goes to a senior authorising officer within the council at a senior level. It's primarily Derek Higton or myself for emergency applications. Following that, then it goes on to a magistrates court. So there's lots of safeguards in place. With regards to communications data requests, the council uses an organisation, the National Anti-Fraud Network. It's good practice nationally to use this service. They have a team of experts, so we put our communications data requests through there. Since the report was written, we have now actually put 1 communications data request has been submitted, and it's in the process of being authorised, and that investigation relates into scams against vulnerable persons. The whole process is overseen by the Investigatory Powers Commissioner's Office, and IPCO, as it's known. It monitors compliance with RIPA in relation to surveillance, covert human intelligence sources and communications data. And the Surveillance Commissioner will from time to time come to the council, inspect records and procedures, and make sure that we are, following procedure, and make sure that the committee is aware of what's going on. And if I may, the final update for you then today, paragraph 57 regarding the Armed Forces strategy. The County Council has a proud history of work to support the Armed Forces community, and I'm sure members will be aware the council holds a Defence Employees Recognition Gold Award, and that was achieved last year. The new administration has made a commitment to develop and expand this area of work over the next 4 years. An Armed Forces champion and an Armed Forces advocate have now been identified. That's Councillor Girling and Councillor Lee. They're both ex-service personnel. And officers are now working up a detailed work programme and proposals with Councillors Girling and Lee over the summer. And that will be brought to this committee in September to take this commitment forward. Okay, I will pause there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Recommendations are on page 41. Members consider the updates and highlight any actions required. And the second recommendation, members consider the actions undertaken by Trading Standards under the Regulatory and Investigatory Powers Act. It's not easy to say. So I'll propose that. Thank you. I'll have a seconder. Thank you.
I'll second that, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from members? Councillor Guilford.
Yes, Chairman. I wonder, can we have a list of the areas mentioned in, I think it's 5, is it? Where the leaflets were sent, residential areas. In particular, if it's, local to me as a member, so I'm aware of where there are some concerns. Is that possible?
Okay. Do you want to come back on that, Mark, please?
Yes, that is possible. I'm just checking my script. I think I might have that detail in here, so I'll see if I can pick that up and come back on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to the trading team as well for assisting with the boroughs and districts and helping ensure that our shops were open safely as we've come out of lockdown. In particular, I want to look at paragraphs 15 and 16, which is about illegal tobacco controls. It states in the report that since March 2021, we've had 19 inspections been undertaken and that we've only had £950 worth of illegal products seized. It highlights in the report that this is believed to be due to HMRC making progress in disrupting the supply chain. I personally would slightly query that. I think the sort of people that do inspections or mystery shoppers that go into shops to try and find illicit tobacco, when you go to areas in Ashfield, such as the Classic Estate in Sutton or the Coxmore Estate in Kirkby, they can spot these people coming a mile off. So I think subsequently in some areas we're possibly not getting a full view because people can see the inspectors coming and they're just trying to take note of it. So I think if we could have a look at how we do those and possibly a bit more information on the areas that have been inspected, I'd appreciate that. I think the issue is obviously wider than the interruptions in the supply chain as it's stated, but away from illicit tobacco as I'd normally think about, which would obviously be cigarettes and rolling tobacco. Are we aware of any supply in newer counterfeit products such as e-cigarettes, vaping liquids and items like this? And are we trying to clamp down on them as part of the normal inspection process, or do we have anything specific to deal with the emergence of products like this? Thank you.
Thanks very much. A couple there for you, Mark, if that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the question. We have a dedicated team of officers who focus on the illicit tobacco problem and issue. And of course, yes, criminals are always evolving their tactics and techniques, etc., to avoid, or evade being caught, as it were. we are aware of the challenge there, but we are constantly reviewing what we do to understand what the issues are and how we can update our techniques. We have changed them over the years many times and frequently changed. To say the staff involved are experts in surveillance. They are, many of them that we use have served in the police force as well. And so are aware of the challenges. But you're right, it is a really, really challenging area. We can only ever almost scratch the surface with some of this and be out and about there and make sure that people know that we are there and that they have to go to extreme measures in order to evade being caught, as it were, because the penalties are severe, and obviously we can prosecute people when we catch them, and also we have the use of the Proceeds of Crime Act and to do asset recovery on them. With regards to the second question then around vaping, e-cigarettes, etc., counterfeit products around there, we're very much intelligence led, and there has been in the past when we've had intelligence to suggest that there's been problems with these products, we have worked in that area. I'm not sure at the moment we have done much work around it. I will take that away, if I may, and bring an update in a future report, because certainly we have done work, but I say I'm not sure it's actually much, or we're not picking it up as much as a problem at the moment in the county as it has been previously.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Chairman. Just on the point on tackling loneliness and digital exclusion. So I know that some districts, for example, Rushcliffe, have their own programmes. Are we working with them to avoid duplication of resource and obviously to make sure that we're ultimately doing the best service for these residents? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Yeah, absolutely. The work that's being done is being coordinated through the Local Resilience Forum, actually, the Humanitarian Assistance Group and the Community Support Hub cell. There are groups that sit under that, and of course there are representatives from all the district councils involved. So, Derek Hayden at Rushcliffe, for example, is a key member involved in those groups. So we'll be feeding in and absolutely making sure that we don't duplicate. That's been one of one of the benefits of the pandemic has been it has brought us working more closely together, I think, across county, district councils, etc.
Thank you very much, Mark. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to the vote then. Those in favour of the recommendations, please show. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you, Mark. Item 9 is the work programme. I propose the work programme. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you.
Chairman, happy to second.
Okay, thank you. Anybody, any comments or any questions on the work programme? No, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for attending the meeting. Yeah, have a good break. Enjoy it.